always begin our episodes past the previously on if you're watching from the DVDs, and today's episode does have a previously on. So if you haven't done that, jump ahead really quickly before we start. I'm going to get the recording going, our record, and then in a second here, we are going to all start our episodes. I just started the recording, and we are going to, in a second here, start our episodes at the same time on the count of 3. Is everybody ready?
Born ready.
Great. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. That does not look like a screen. That looks like they were probably being pulled by a trailer.
Well, that's time warp. Hootie and the Blowfish. I love that we don't have the tune issues anymore as long as we have our phones. Yes. Does anybody remember having like a cassette tape to put into your car in order to hook up your phone?
I do.
Oh,
I totally did. I don't have a car.
Jeep
but my
actually
friend
had a cassette. We just switched the radio in it, and the Jeep had a cassette tape.
Does anybody remember when like cars would have 6 CD changer?
Yep. My CRV has a 6 CD changer. My last car had that. It's only been like 2 years that I didn't have it. Mine still does. It's a 2007 and has almost 300,000 miles on it.
I love
that car.
I have like
My old Jetta had a CD changer in the trunk. Sheila Lawrence. I just saw her name. Did she write this episode?
I think Daniel Palladino wrote it.
Daniel Palladino wrote it. What did it say? Oh, and this is directed by Jamie. Cool.
I think. Did you see this? Did you hear how she said Hayden? Christopher's last name is Hayden.
whoever made that though. Wow.
That I don't think is real.
I was just gonna say I don't know if that's real.
Even
No,
if
it's definitely not.
It's pretty.
No, because nobody's eating that thing.
I think it is.
Oh wait! Oh my God, it is.
Yeah, it's just the
Oh my
bottom.
goodness.
Oh my gosh.
I think it's just the bottom layer that's real. They even do that for actual weddings.
You're gonna miss a good part.
Do they waste a
give you
lot of
that
food on the set? I mean, I feel like there's lots of
Why?
food laying around in the kitchen always.
Guys, you missed it. The mountains, huh, John?
Should have called.
There was an animal person on set that day.
I feel like Lorelai should be able to brush past anybody she wants.
Do they make certs anymore?
Nope.
By the way, I want to talk a little bit more about this whole Lorelai Max thing after the episode because I have had some time to simmer on it and I have even more thoughts.
Cool.
We'll talk about it afterwards.
Why am I scared?
I was gonna ask you about that before, but we segued into other stuff.
One thing I remember is this was one of the first episodes to air after 9/11, and hence the New York T-shirt.
Oh, interesting.
Yep. A lot of TV shows were like this.
Patriotism was sweeping the nation. So I work in publishing, and that is my favorite line of the series.
Having a mouthful of food, by the way, on a line is that really, really tough to do. I'll tell you about it afterwards.
Six percent.
Oh, this scene.
And he's in a perfectly happy mood.
Why did he say, should I say gracias? That's supposed to be,
Because
because
he thinks that's
it-
what they say in French.
yeah, no, that's what I thought. That really makes him out to be extremely dumb. Is that what he is? That the character?
No, not really.
Just watch it.
Boston, Boston.
John, all of your questions about tonight would have been answered yesterday if you read today's episode title.
Yeah, I know. Actually, I read the episode title when I was creating the description for the room.
Definitely not the mountains.
The mountains of Rory's aspirations. I got that right.
Sure. Okay.
It seems weird that they've never been there when they live so close by.
I'm gonna applaud that leap you just made, John.
I've always thought that, Sabrina.
This is literally how I saw Harvard whenever, like nearly 20 years ago.
Where was that shot?
probably shot at USC. The University of California.
I was Googling it too. Yeah, I was just looking it up too. UCLA.
Oh, my favorite word from all the seasons.
The gates apparently were made just for the show.
Interesting. There's actually some sort of tradition about walking through those gates. I can't remember what it is exactly. My cousin went to Harvard and he told me about it.
That thing behind her says, "Get paid to watch porn." What's all that about? Ever noticed?
Me neither.
My husband just pointed it out.
I haven't messaged either. I haven't noticed it either.
Didn't she? I love that line.
Okay, I lived in a dorm and we never left our doors open when we weren't in the room.
I lived in a dorm and we did.
Boys.
Anyone
My
else
college
remember
never had
the special guest or special acoustics? My college never had dorm.
I lived off campus, so I didn't know.
Mine didn't have dorms either.
My sandwich finally came in. I got it corrected.
Yay!
They didn't have focaccia, so I just got it on a croissant. And they gave me salad for some reason. Are they trying to tell me I'm not eating healthy?
Maybe because they
Just a way to make up for
it.
it.
And give the girl who hates salad salad.
So 90, I guess that would have been her class, huh?
Yes. The year I graduated high school.
There he is.
Holy crap, that's Hero from Hero.
Yeah.
That actress was funny. That's funny.
So Kurt.
Just the whole thing, all the people.
What did they need all those lawn chairs for? Wait, I swear when they pulled in, it wasn't there.
Yeah, I don't think it was there.
That is so weird.
Yeah, it's just a continuity error. If it's true, I don't know. I'd have to watch it again. Maybe it was.
I'm rewinding it.
I don't think they showed that perspective of the house when they pulled in.
Yeah, they didn't show that perspective. It started at the tree. No, it's not there.
By the way, Sherry, timestamp is 32:37 if you need to get back up.
Thank you.
Oops.
Something feels stupid. Love this. Lane's back. Yay.
What a shocker, she came back. Thought we were never gonna see her again.
There's got to be some great storylines waiting for this character.
She might meet a couple of people here and there. She has a habit of befriending strange guys.
Oh my God, they're still standing in the same spot.
There are girls catching up. This could take 3 hours.
Yeah, but the suggestion is that Lane has not stopped talking since then, because that's the moment when she says, "So tell me what's going on with you."
I mean, she has been trapped in Korea for a long time.
Yeah, that's true.
So that was fun. My sandwich was amazing.
That was a delightful episode. That one's high up on my list. And I'm ready to concede that Emily did not like know what she was doing yesterday. When she mentioned about her wedding dress at the
That's so funny because I was going to mention that.
I was going to mention that too.
Of course.
Wait,
I was like, I'm not gonna let.
I knew you'd stop with that, man.
Yeah, I was thinking
What?
I'm not gonna let you mention it. I'm gonna say it first. I got it. Yeah. No, this episode made it clear. I mean, obviously, like her reaction there when she tells her about not getting married, like.
So two things. One, I guess, open the couch up, and
Yeah.
two, what were you going to say that you thought about all night last night that you wanted to bring to a light today?
Yeah. Well, so first of all, I just opened up the couch. The couch was just grown longer, which means that there are more cushions up here for folks out on the beanbags who want to join us in discussion about this episode. We're gonna mostly talk about this episode, but yeah, I'll just sort of, yeah. So somebody in Discord was talking about how, like, said that they don't really understand why there are people who really hate Lorelai, and because I guess there are folks that hate Lorelai. I don't really hate Lorelai, but I did mention that she's not really a favorite character of mine, and it's mostly, well, maybe that's not a good way of saying it. I mean, she's such an important character to the show that you can't really enjoy the show without enjoying her place in the show. Excuse me. My thing about her is the selfishness, right? Is like kind of the constantly focusing on herself. And it got me thinking a little bit about what we were talking about yesterday, and what I really loved about the character, and what I really love about her, like deciding that she's going to call the wedding off. She even gets to it a little even in this episode where she says, I really wish that I did love him. And it seems like what she really wishes is that she loved him so that she could go through with the marriage and the wedding and all of those things, because that is ultimately what she wants. And it just got me thinking about other things from the episode that I in our discussion last night, I didn't really think of that. Like, for example, when it wasn't in last night's episode, actually, it was in a previous episode, when she's sitting there out on the porch, on the front porch with Max, and she says, "I'm going to be married," right? Like, even that is like somebody who's really kind of consumed with the idea of marriage and the idea of her being married rather than marrying someone.
Were you expecting Rory to feel the way that she did about Max?
Well, I wasn't really expecting anything, but it seemed perfectly natural. It seemed totally natural. I mean, I think she's gotten attached to him, and she's, she's gotten used to her mom, in this state that she hasn't seen her before, where she's so happy and so excited about the prospect. So I think Rory just doesn't want to lose that. she's just scared, afraid of losing that.
She looks very emotional when she's like, I was looking forward to this, Max was looking forward to this. Like, it seems like she was a lot more into it now than she was at the beginning of their relationship.
Well, I think Rory is still inexperienced enough to not really know that people could be phoning it into a relationship. To her, she wouldn't be with someone who she didn't really like, just like she held out for Dean and that kind of thing. So I think she doesn't quite understand how Lorelai could have been engaged to Max, but not actually want to marry Max.
And also, this is the first guy that she brought home to Rory, so she probably thought, yeah, this must be really it.
John touched on it last night or I think it was you, John, or it was someone else. I don't know. Anyway, and I think like people do this a lot where they're like in love with the idea of love or in love with the idea of someone. So I honestly feel like that's what Lorelai was doing, is because like Rory made a comment saying like, and you hate cats, so you really will be alone if you don't find someone. And so I think maybe that resonated with her a lot more than she thought, and she like quote unquote fell in love with Max, but fell in love with the idea of like being married and not really understanding everything that comes with that. And so I think like Rory's still young enough that she doesn't really understand like everything yet, but she has a pretty good idea. So I understand why she was upset, but yeah.
Do you think that Lorelai is ready to move on the in because she realized that Rory's about to be gone to college, or because she just lost Max, or all of it like culminating together?
I think she just wants to like have something to not have something to do, but she's been like thinking about it for like years now. And so I think, it's either weird timing or she wants to have something good to look forward to considering everything.
I think she just spent a lot of time thinking about things when she started thinking about why she might not want to marry Max, and she'd just been thinking and decided that maybe she should follow what she really wants to do and put her energy into that for now, and that would be the end. She was thinking about the end of season 1, and if you're going to think that much about things and all of a sudden you realize I'm not really in love with the man that I said I would marry, what do I want to do? Why not jump on that and start doing it while you're thinking about it?
I was gonna ask, how far is Harvard from, like, how far in terms of hours is Harvard from Stars Hollow? Does anybody know the answer? I know Stars Hollow.
Now we know you know this. East Coasters.
I think it's probably like maybe 2.5 to 3 hours, because where they're at is like Hartford. It's 30 minutes from Hartford, and Hartford to Boston or Cambridge I'm in New York, so like I know how it's 5 hours for me to Boston.
1 hour 31 minutes.
Yeah, from Harvard to Hartford. Yeah,
I'm in Connecticut. I would say about 3 hours.
Interesting. The only reason why I ask is I think that it's relevant to the question, because if it's like if Rory's really like going away, when I went to college, I grew up in Miami and I went to college in Chicago. I really truly like left home. But if it's just like an hour or so, or a few hours at the most, then it may not feel quite so much like Rory would be fully leaving to college. Of course, I don't really, I don't know, but
I think it's meant to be a little bit further away, because there's a point later on about how if she goes to Harvard, she can't come home as often as she could if she goes somewhere else.
Okay.
So
okay.
I do feel like they intended to be a little bit further away than what may be on a map.
Yeah, Google Maps says from Hartford University, Cambridge to Harvard to Hartford, Connecticut, it's 1 hour 31 minutes, 96.6 miles. And we know that it's about 30 to 40 minutes from Stars Hollow to Hartford.
Okay, that's good. I really like though this what Chris, was that you that yeah, that you just said about how
She was thinking
well,
about.
like, yeah, she's been thinking about what she doesn't want, and now of course it seems logical that she would be thinking about what she does want. What does she really actually want right now? And it may not have anything to do with a relationship or marriage or any of that, and it may, it may simply be like, moving her life forward in a different way.
That
I
sometimes
just found
happens
it-
after breakups.
I was gonna say, I just saw Nikki flashing quite a bit. Yeah, hey guys. I didn't get up on the couch tonight. The app like wouldn't let me into the room. I don't know why. Anyways,
What? Weird.
yeah. I have to wonder if part of her move on the in is she feels like she has to keep up this persona that like she picks herself up again and she pushes forward and nothing gets her down. Like she doesn't need a man in her life. She's a strong woman, and so I wonder if there's an element of that. And then I wonder if there's an element of she feels like she has to keep up that persona because she doesn't want to let herself think that she actually might like a partner in life.
I think to go off of that, I really think it's the photo of the 1990 graduate.
Absolutely.
And it's like,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
her moment.
Yeah, that's where my
That's what I
question
was
came
gonna
from.
say. Yeah.
Yeah, that's her moment. And like, honestly, like she has always carved her own path. Like she didn't graduate high school. She didn't, and she made a lot of herself despite those things. And I feel like, yeah, I think like she is the kind of person that picks herself back up, like you said, but she also carves out her own path. And I think that's the moment where she was like, well, I didn't do the traditional thing where you go to college and you graduate, but I can still have a business of my own and something that's mine and that I create out of nothing. And that's how she's going to become like the equivalent of a Harvard graduate.
That's gonna be her success story. Like, these people got their success story from being the Harvard picture. She's gonna have her own success story through the end.
Right, and
Exactly.
she's seeing her daughter go like in the classroom, and Rory's about to start her success story, start to her journey. And so I think seeing that photo of how much she's accomplished in her life, and just thinking forward of where do I go now? My daughter's about to have her own life, so what am I doing with mine?
Yeah, I really like that a lot.
That was
All
Andrea.
the thinking.
Tasha.
Thank you.
Oh, and after Tasha, Curry was flashing earlier too.
Okay, so I think we're kind of reading a little too much into this. And I mean, yes, like Lorelai's a very independent person. She has been independent since she was 16 and stuff like that. So yes, she doesn't need men in her life to like keep her sustained, or she wants to have people in her life, but she doesn't need them. But what I was going to say was about like wanting to open the inn. When people break up, and I think like everyone knows this, like people have their glow up, whether that's like physically dyeing your hair, like a new wardrobe or new car, whatever that is. But also there's like going like getting a new job, or in Lorelai's case, moving on with doing the in thing. So like I think that's just her glow up, and like people do that. I don't know if it's necessarily like I mean, it might have something to do with the fact that she did look at that woman who graduated the same year that she should have, but I don't know, like I don't think it's, I don't know.
I just tend to think that Max at this moment is a distant memory for her. Like she made the decision and then it was over, you know? And like, I'm sure she's still like upset about it, but at the same time, like it's almost like when she comes back, she has a new outlook on life. And like besides the hoopah, like I just don't even think that she's concerned anymore about a relationship.
I was gonna say that too, Diana. I don't think she's as upset as people think she might be. I think when she realized that she shouldn't do it and she made the decision not to, she was probably more relieved than upset that she realized it before she went through with it.
I also think it's funny how, Emily was very upset that Lorelai didn't tell her when she got engaged, but she didn't really seem too upset when she told her that she wasn't getting married anymore, other than being worried about returning the gift.
Look at how superficial that was. How that's all. Lorelai was sort of flippant with her about the occasion was her wedding that is off, and she would say, "Well, is it the sterling silver corncob holders, or is it the like she was more concerned. She was more interested in the gift than the fact that she was more interested in outsmarting Emily and trying to guess the gift than she was about, Emily started to, I think, get a little invested emotionally, and was really counting on the weekend and talking about the weekend and why should you go out of town when you have this, this weekend is coming up. And I think that, and look at how the whole conversation with Max wasn't even filmed. How we have no idea how she even told him. And how, I mean, that's such a,
well, I think she was being funny with the whole like gift thing and
I know, but my point is that she was also in the same conversation within the span of the same, within moments of telling her mother this kind of devastating news for her mom. I mean, Lorelai has, of course, made the decision, so she's had a lot more time with the decision to process it. But I think that the fact that the writers decided not to even film anything, not even one side of the conversation, says a lot about the symbolism. Well, how he was really a
How
device,
important it was.
like a device almost. Like,
well, you remember what Emily said, like when Lorelai was like saying like, oh, you won that $5 from Dad or whatever, but like and Emily was like, who called off the wedding? And she's like, I did.
mm-hmm.
And I think like if you probably could see it that like Emily was like proud that it was her that called it off and not like Max and stuff like that. So I think like her reaction was like already there when like she asked her like who called it off, because she wants to make sure that like her daughter's in control of her own life and things like that.
So that's when her, that's
and when we see them, we assume like, okay, they've already sat through a dinner. Now they're sitting through a slideshow of pictures, and then she's like, oh yeah, by the way, I've called off the wedding. And Lorelai doesn't appear to be devastated. They've already probably spent 3 hours together and hasn't mentioned it. And so I think it was Emily's way of just kind of saying it'll be okay. She's just playful and just realizing that it wasn't the right fit and it's nothing to throw in Lorelai's face or anything.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking
That's how I interpreted it as well. Yeah.
And Lorelai chasing her around the house about the gift idea is probably the first time we ever actually see them be playful with each other.
Yeah, I like that.
Lorelai was just so relieved that her mother didn't, the only thing she said was, oh, I guess I'll have to return your gift. I think she was just feeling really relieved. So that she took that kind of as a jumping off point to, kind of have a little, playful moment with Emily.
I think Lorelai always needs to feel like she is in control, and I don't think she really was. I think a bunch of you have said that, the idea of the marriage, not actually with the idea of her and Max being married. And when she turned around and said to her mom, in general, even when it came to letting her parents know, she's always afraid of what Emily's reaction's going to be. They're very much alike. And I think Lorelai realizes by her keeping things to herself, it usually winds up coming out a hell of a lot worse. She finally was able to tell her mother, and the first thing she said is, well, before she actually got it out, was, "You eloped." Emily feels like she's not in her daughter's life. And by her saying we called it off, I think she felt relieved, because it's not like she found out from somebody else, which she does for the engagement.
I think she was more relieved that she called it off more than anything else.
She called to make sure that everybody in the town knew, and then waited and threw a dinner and a slideshow for her mother to find out at all. So that says a lot there.
And by the way, her father wasn't even there.
Well, I think that's her trying to avoid the topic, though. I don't think it was because it's her mother. She just didn't want to have to talk about it with anyone. So her easiest route was to tell Suki and have Suki spread the word.
Yeah, but then forgot about her mom and dad completely. So they were still expecting the wedding that weekend.
I think her father was like on business.
I think that's a little disingenuous, frankly. I mean, when you think about somebody in your world who's getting married, that's all you talk about. That's all you think. Like, it's the topic of conversation for months ahead of time, and for her to, I guess it was sort of a matter of time when Emily. I mean, I guess if you wanted to think about what happened off stage, off screen, when during the dinner that happened before, did Emily mention the weekend, and did they just defer and change the subject? And so finally she was sort of cornered and into admitting what was happening.
You raise a good point, and like it's hard to believe that, like, as soon as the topic came up that they went to Harvard, like, it wasn't right away before we even got to the slides. Like, what do you mean you went to Harvard? Like, you're getting married. Yeah. Like, when was this trip to Harvard suddenly planned?
And it's a Friday night dinner, so it's already the weekend, which means if the wedding was the next day or the day after that, they would be talking about it the whole
who's
night.
going to Friday night dinner right before their wedding?
Exactly.
Right.
What?
Why would Max be at this particular dinner? He's clearly back from Toronto, or maybe he isn't.
Why hasn't Max been at all the Friday night dinners?
Yes.
But isn't that part also of Emily? How come Emily hasn't invited and insisted that Max be at the dinners?
But equally, why hasn't Lorelai said, like, this is my fiance, he will be coming with us?
This is what we do every Friday night. You should be a part of it.
That's what I mean about him being a device.
Do that. Come on, guys.
Yeah, she didn't want him there.
She didn't want him
Well,
there.
exactly. It comes down to she didn't want him there.
Anywhere, her bed, Luke, Friday night dinner, like everywhere.
In town, having a key.
So what did she want? What did she want out of
the
it?
idea of it?
She just wanted the idea that she was getting married to this handsome guy. This, like,
She wanted to be happily ever after.
Well, what she said, "You're my fella," or "What, you're my guy," or I'm sorry, which I messed that up. I think.
Fella. That was the last episode, because Max was like, "What's gonna be my role?"
And I think that's John, I wasn't. You said that you wanted to really discuss what happened, and I don't know if this goes back to what you wanted to discuss in terms of what happened between them and why it happened between them. But I think that was really one of the fulcrum on which her decision was made, even though we don't really see her decision process. But the whole idea that what is he to her? What are they together? And how are they going to be as a couple? And sometimes Yeah.
He just felt like, I mean, you know, now in hindsight, he just.
Did John just cut out, or is that just me?
Did I just?
I can't hear him. He cut out.
Hold on.
Just
Hold on.
like, and then nothing.
I can
Wait.
hear him.
How's this? I just switched to.
Ooh, I can hear you again.
From
Hear that way
Wi-Fi
better.
to data.
Thank you
sorry
for
about
that, because I went downstairs to check on the recording and it just cut out and I was like, what happened?
Oh goodness, yeah. So I mean, yeah, my Wi-Fi sometimes plays little games on me, but yeah, I mean, he just feels like a thing, you know. He just feels like another thing. Like Max seems like the 20s engagement ring that she wanted, right?
A prop.
Just
It's early.
A device.
you know, I mean, and in hindsight, I'm seeing that now. You know, in the moment, I don't think that it registered to me. But like now, in hindsight, I see. You know, and the only thing about it that that I can sort of reconcile that allows me to sort of reconcile the whole thing is that ultimately she realized what she was doing and she called it off before, I mean, God forbid, they had gotten married. And then that, you know, I mean, like, could you imagine? That would have been even worse. And so for me, that's the one thing that like kind of redeems all of that. But in hindsight, I mean, he really feels like he was there to serve a fantasy, a Lorelai fantasy, and nothing else.
Yeah, he's a prop in her life in a way.
But
I almost think John.
Sorry, I was just going to say the reality is those types of marriages do happen.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah,
of course.
But I almost wonder, I mean, John, and multiple people have said this many times, that their relationship feels very much like she's still a teenager and she acts very immature in some ways.
Yeah.
And we know that she hasn't like really dated or had a relationship of any kind at all. And so this is really her first relationship since she was with Christopher and had a baby. And so how this all evolved feels very much like those 16, 18-year-olds that think that they're in love and get engaged. And then it's like, whoa, wait a minute, like, we're just kids. Like, we don't know what love is and this isn't right. And I kind of wonder if she had that moment.
I really want to riff on that because I have a thought to expand on it, but I see Krista's flashing.
For a while now.
So I want to let Krista speak first.
Thanks. No, I was just gonna say, like, Lorelai, she wants love. I think that's the main thing. She wants love. She wants kind of, you know, she wants romance. She wants she wants that like couple life. But I think she didn't realize that it was. I think she almost thought that it was the love was gonna come to her as their relationship went on. So she figured, oh, they will get married, which means they'll be together and then she'll love him. But that's why I think, and like somebody else just said, I think this is it was probably her first like serious relationship ever. So it was just, she kind of, you know, it's kind of like a teenager relationship almost. But yeah.
Early 2000s, and she's in her 30s and has a teenage daughter. That's what is expected of you, to be married. And I guess she thought that maybe that was just something that was going to come along with it, was the love will follow if I do this.
Well, and with Rory leaving in a few years too, it's like, well, maybe I should have a husband. Maybe now is the time.
Yeah, she was 32 at this point.
So I just wanted to say something. Curry was talking about earlier about how we don't see her decision process or her, if she communicated it to Max or anything. And I always kind of felt like that was intentional on the part of the writers, that we didn't get to see that because we were supposed to feel the impact that maybe Rory felt when her mom came in and told her what's happening. And so we were just seeing it from a different side as opposed to getting to see all sides of it. I always kind of felt that way. And I kind of curious what you guys think about that, because we keep saying how well, she didn't call Max. We didn't see how she told Max. We didn't see how she decided it. And I think that was really intentional on part of the writers.
I agree with you.
Like I said last night, I left somebody that same way and I didn't tell him. I just moved out while he was gone.
I want to sort of expand on this idea, on this whole topic of Lorelai and whether she's selfish or whatnot, because partly is because I'm also reading on Instagram Live that some folks there have some opinions on the matter as well, and have some really good points that when we say, or when I say that I find the character selfish, you know, it's mostly in the context of this particular this part of her life, right? It has to do with with love and finding love, and you know, and living the storybook, you know, fantasy. Aside from that, she is a very strong-willed character, and at times does seem like she sort of railroads the, you know, her partner in crime, right, Rory, in a variety of situations. But that said, you know, some of the folks on Instagram Live are pointing it out. It's true. She is also a very warm person who you know, cares deeply for the needs of all of the people in her life around her. So I don't want to discount any of that and sort of suggest that she's just this like horrible, selfish person. I don't think that that's really what anybody is saying. But in the context of this thing, I think that she's been sort of led by what I want at the expense of some people that are caught up in all of that and ultimately were hurt, namely Max. One thing that I was going to say after you mentioned, after what you had said, Nikki, earlier about, you know, her being a teenager and you know, when she last had a relationship, and this sort of feeling like, gosh, you know, like if that's the only relationship she's ever had, and she's stunted in that way, and so it seems only natural that she would be approaching a relationship in that manner. And of course, young people are very selfish when it comes to relationships. I feel like, for me, it feels like Lorelai's story is kind of beginning here right now. Like, it feels like, you know, like from a writing perspective, that like we're at the end of like Lorelai's Act 1, and she's now venturing into sort of understanding who she is, and that she, you know, that this like thing, this marriage, all of that coming to a head sort of has now propelled her into the unknown, into like, okay, what do I want with my life, and how am I going to build this future for myself, and you know, and what does it mean to want love, and is there somebody out there for me? All of these questions that feel like that's what the rest of her story is going to be about.
I think Tasha's going to break her thumb.
Tasha, go ahead. Sorry, I because the problem with having like so many people up on the couch is that I and you're all the way at the top. I actually just can't see some people that are flashing by.
Oh, you're totally fine. I just didn't like want to lose my train of thought with like what someone else said, and so it's like, help me. So can't remember who said it. It's been a few minutes, but going back to where and you touched on it, John, so thank you for that. About like Lorelai being selfish and stuff like that, and like her being a teenager. I don't think, and I think that's kind of not a nice thing to say, because like some people don't like only have like one relationship, or only have like two relationships like prior to their like first serious one, and kind of like I don't think like, because like she was in a relationship with Chris. That's why Rory was created, because she was dating him, and then she meets Matt, who obviously is her first serious relationship since Chris, for good reason. I don't think like she's necessarily thinking like in a teenager type way, because like when you're a teenager, you can feel just as much love as like adults do, because it does happen where people meet like in high school and are together for years and years and then get married and then they're married for the rest of their lives. Like my best friend, she was married right out of high school, but she was dating her now husband in high school for like 2 years, and they've married like 7 or 8 years now. So like,
Yeah,
I don't think.
but then they likely matured together and learned together. And my sense, I could be wrong on this. My sense is that Lorelai and Christopher were not together that long. She wouldn't have had a great deal of experience in a relationship to learn, sort of like the do's and don'ts and what truly is love between another person, like the love deeper than just the sort of infatuation and excitement.
Well, I mean, yeah, you have a point, but I think like, and this is just me coming off of my own experience. Like, I feel like people can feel like the true meaning of love at like any age. I myself hasn't truly found that out yet. Had 2 serious relationships, but never really felt true love. But that's the point. So I think like at any age, probably not necessarily at Lorelai's, in Lorelai's case, but I think like you can actually feel true love at any age. But like you said, it kind of like the maturity has to be there as well. So as long as you have like the maturity, I think you can have like true love really at any age.
Mary. Sorry, I think I'm going to say something maybe a little controversial, but I agree with John that Lorelai is a selfish character, but I kind of feel like she's either entitled or justified to be selfish right now, in the sense that at 16, she left her family, went off, had a baby, found a way to support that baby, found a way to raise that baby, have, provide a house, provide things. I think she's finally at the stage of where it's okay for her life and her thoughts to be focused on her. And is it emotional? Is she emotionally stunted, or is it simply she's now actually purposely thinking about herself in a different way than she's done before? Because we know she's dated before. She did date before because Suki brings it up, Rory brings it up, that they had rules about the men never coming to the house. But I think part of what happened with Max is her allowing herself to now think of the relationship past just something as a brief interaction and actually think of it as a future for herself, but she's only thinking about herself. She doesn't think of the relationship as with the other person involved in the relationship.
I think Lorelai is an extremely flawed character. And I think because she's flawed, it makes it more realistic to me. And I actually like the character more. She does a lot of very selfish things, I agree. But I think with Christopher, they dated for a little while because, she says that she dated a bunch of other people. She also says with Rory, Rory calls them the guy with the earring, the guy with the mustache, the guy with the one eye, the pirate thing. So she does date. This was the first definite real relationship, and I think because she's so flawed that when she focuses on other things, it definitely seems like it's more of a selfish kind of thing than anything else.
And vice versa, when she doesn't, when she like stops for a second, when she grounds herself and she realizes what she needs to do, the right thing to do, it's like, I think that those moments are the most exciting moments for the character, at least for me.
I agree.
This is a question that I've been curious about, because this topic of like, loving and not loving the Lorelai character is one that I've heard others have, and I know that there are a lot of people who just absolutely love that character. I'm curious whether anyone who does love this character character who's in the room, I'd be curious to know, is the love for the character because she reminds you of yourself? Or is the love of the character because she's somebody that you want to be around? Like, meaning she's the type of person who's not like you, but either maybe there are things about her personality that you admire, that you would like to be more of, or just a person who you would want to go out and have a beer with or have a drink with. I'm curious.
I want Lorelai's independence.
She reminds me of myself in the best and worst kind of ways.
I agree with you, Jess. She's definitely a little bit of both.
For me, it's both. Yeah, I love her. And I think the selfishness too, like if you think about it, she's been a single mom for 16 years, no help. She couldn't trust her parents to help because it would have come with conditions and terms and everything. She didn't have Christopher, he was off doing her thing. So I think she had a right to be selfish too. And it was kind of also like to protect herself, because once you start bringing a man around, you involve your daughter's feelings, you involve, I don't know. I just think the selfishness, yes, she's my favorite character, but I kind of excuse the selfishness or understand it, because me as a mom, if I had to raise my kid alone and worry about everything, I would be selfish too.
I think it's also one, it's Lauren Graham. I think it's just Lauren for me. She's just so sparkly and fun and like lights up the screen. But I also think like one of the things that strikes me about like the first full season and up till this episode is she's still struggling with like what was expected of her. She defiantly didn't do that thing, which was marry the boy that got her pregnant and live the life that she was expected to live as a very like waspy New England young girl, so she doesn't do those things, but there's definitely a certain amount of guilt that goes along with that, or at least latent. And she feels when Max comes along, it's like, oh, here's the thing, like maybe I'll finally fulfill that destiny that I was supposed to fulfill. And when she realizes it's not the right thing, that last scene of this episode is just so powerful. And it is a moment where I personally fall in love with Lorelai, because I'm like, oh, she's so like jazzed about this idea that it doesn't have to be that life. And I think when I was watching it for the first time as a teenager, I was really inspired by that, because I was like, oh, it doesn't have to go a certain way. Like everybody says, you grow up, you get married, you have children, and maybe have one career or two careers, and that's it. And she like doesn't do that at all. And I think for a generation of women, she really, that character, we hadn't really seen that in a show that was for both teenagers and parents. So it was just a really, like for me, it's always been, oh, this is a character that actually offers a completely different life that's just as amazing as a more traditional, like grow up, get married, have kids, and move along type of life.
I just want to say, because I can't really answer John's question the way he asked it, because Lorelai is not my favorite character. She's not my favorite Gilmore girl. She's the third of the two for me. But my problem with Lorelai's selfishness comes into play when it's I don't have a problem with people being selfish at times. Sometimes you have to be, because you got to look out for yourself. But my problem with her selfishness is at the times where it affects Rory in a negative way. For instance, when she doesn't like when Rory gets involved with things that have to do with her parents, because she feels like she wants to be in that world and not her world, and things like that. There's these other things about her. And it's not anything to do with Lauren Graham as the actor, or any, in fact, she plays it so well that it makes me think, but that's what I don't like about the characters. Sometimes her selfishness is in a way that I don't think she really has a right to be selfish in some of those ways. It's kind of almost like she tries to pull her kid in the direction that she thinks her kid should live, as opposed to the way that her kid wants to live her life. And that bothers me about the character. Nothing to do with the actor.
Tiffany?
I don't know if this was said because I walked away for a minute, but I have to wonder too, where Lorelai was an only child and she grew up a rich only child. I wonder if some of that selfishness comes from that because, you know, I think sometimes only children live in their own little world and they just expect things to be for them. So I think it kind of fits her, you know, her history.
Babsy and I are looking at each other right now.
There's a lot of only children in the show, though. Think about that. It's Lorelai, it's Rory, it's Lane, and future characters we're going to meet. Paris. I don't think Paris mentioned. Oh, maybe she does. She does later.
Richard is an only child.
Richard, like there's a lot of only children involved.
I feel like that's also a little bit of a writer thing because writing siblings into a show is actually much tougher than you think because you then have to account for those characters and you have to account for the, you know, the like seeing them in the show and the dynamic between them, you know. So I mean, think about how weird it was when we all met
Clara,
Dean's little sister. We were all like, that was random. Yeah, of course, because the writers focused on him and then they decided to give him a sister and we were all kind of like, but it doesn't feel like it. So you'll actually see that that's a thing I think across television in general is that like most characters are only children for that reason.
I touched on Clara last night with Chris and Regina after we talked, and at the beginning, Dean talks about the fact that he has sisters, and he says sisters plural, and then you just meet Clara later on, like she was just written into the show randomly, even though he claims that he has multiple sisters at the beginning.
Well, doesn't he say that he is at one? And I don't think this is a spoiler. If it is, I'm really sorry. But doesn't he say that he has nieces and nephews? So that would probably mean
that's a spoiler. That's a spoiler. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Hey, John, weren't you going to talk about lines with your mouth full? Yes, you were going to talk about that.
I'll just mention that really quickly, and then I actually have to jump. But because whenever I see an actor with their mouth full, speaking with their mouth full, it actually always really impresses me because it's tough to do because if you think about it, the number of shots that you have to do, right, from various angles means that if you are chewing in the middle of a line, you kind of have to commit to that the whole day, right? You like they're going to be shooting you from different angles, and you're going to be doing that line over and over again. And so you know that like if they shoot that this particular shot might not have been a perfect candidate for it because they kind of kept them the same on the same shot on them, although they probably got some coverage whether they used it or not. And if Rory was speaking, or if Alexis was speaking with a mouthful of food, and then they like cut to another angle and she doesn't have any food in her mouth, that's really weird. And so as an actor, you kind of have to keep in mind, and there might even be folks off camera, like, continuity folks off camera that are also keeping track of stuff like that. And so you actually have to be aware that, oh, if I was talking with a mouthful of food, like, on that other take 2 hours ago, I've got to now 2 hours later have food in my mouth the same way in case they cut away. And I really love that scene because, the way she was speaking with her mouth, I mean, it was just so natural. So, but of course I'm thinking, yeah, if that was me and I was doing that, I would be kind of like committing to putting food in my mouth all day long.
Probably a lot of stuff in a spit bucket, huh?
Yeah, they do have spit buckets, although I didn't use the spit bucket. I always ate it, and then I ended up eating too much and getting sick.
Oh, no. Is that because you were a starving artist?
No, it's just like I thought the idea of spitting into a bucket was kind of gross. I liked the taste of the food, so I was like, just enjoying eating it. And to speak to somebody else actually made a mention of this early in the episode, about the leftovers. Like I always think about like all these scenes with food, like how many leftovers. Like actors went home with leftovers. Like we would get bags, like little doggy bags to take home with us with that food because they made a lot of it. you know, and it was because we're doing the scene over and over again. So as soon as they called cut, the plate that you have in front of you was like taken, even if it was like half full, taken, and a new plate was put down with like, you know, the with everything now filled back up again for the shot. Maybe not always, but a lot of the time. So there's just like lots of food that they were creating and probably throwing away as well. I remember, you know, this is a spoiler, but I won't say much. You know, I'll just say, like, there is an episode that you all know where there's a lot of food, and I ate a lot of food at that. And that episode, I have very fond memories. Like,
Were you speaking Korean?
yeah.
It's
So
fake.
Totally
that's
know
as
what
far,
you're
that's as far as I'll go, because I don't want to spoil anybody. I
love
think that
that
there's still somebody in the audience that hasn't seen it. But I actually have to jump.
Can I say something, please?
Yes, go.
I've been flashing for like 5 minutes. Crap, now I can't remember. Never mind.
Okay, well, gather your thoughts.
No, I'm not gonna remember.
3219, they're pulling up to the house and the hoopsa is there. The hoopsa is there. So it is in the shot. It's just the Jeep covers it. You only see a little.
Yeah, it looked like when I was checking it out that the tree they started at the tree, so it wasn't over far enough. It looked like when she turned, it wasn't there. It's kind of hard to see with the soft top. So it's probably off to the side a little bit more, but like after she moved, I saw it. I didn't see it right away.
Oh, can I note that search do still exist, and there used to be something called 8-check. I'm sorry, you guys are cracking.
Oh, I looked it up, and it said it was discontinued in 2018.
Oh, really?
Yeah, something about cottonseed oil that was in it.
They still show us the sale online. I thought that was kind of hilarious.
Hey everyone, by the way, I was working on the app today, and one of the features that I was building was like the ability to add new events to the calendar from within the app. And I tested it out by adding a new event on our hiatus week, which you may want to go and check out. It'll be a little.
Just tell us. But are you sure about the time? Because the time is different.
Yeah. I decided that I can do it earlier that day. I decided that day I'm going to like take the dogs to the park in the morning, you know, like early in the morning. That way it'll be a little easier, and I'll start earlier for that particular day. That's not something that I can sustain, but I can do that for one. And I know that, you know, for the East Coasters, that will be nice.
Do what?
Go check it out. Go check it out on the app. I'll just tell you it's a happy hour. We're gonna just have a little happy hour on that week. But
Great.
anyway. All right, I'm gonna jump. Thank you everyone for your time and for watching this with me. Again, I'm gonna be back tomorrow at 7 p.m. To do this again, episode 5. I'm gonna be switching DVDs, changing of the guards.
God bless America.
Hopefully the DVD is not corrupt, and I can keep on doing DVD style because I really like it. All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Thanks,
Thanks, John.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.